This tutorial will cover graphing equations of lines and will provide assistance with assignment 3.1. This will be a review of a concept we covered in the previous unit that is a standard from Algebra 1 that should have been mastered last year. For these problems, we are given an equation of a line and asked to graph this equation. In order to graph an equation of a line, we must first identify the slope, which is represented by m, and then identify the y-intercept, which is represented by b. In order to identify the slope and y-intercept, our equations must be in slope-intercept form, which is essentially an equation that has y isolated on the left side. This will leave us with x, and more often than not, a constant, which is a number without a variable, on the right side. For this assignment, all of the problems are already in this form. So for any equation in slope-intercept form, the slope is always the coefficient of x. So for this particular problem, number 1, the coefficient of x is 7 over 2, so the slope is 7 over 2. This means that our line that we will be graphing will be going up at a rate of 7 units for every 2 units across. Our y-intercept is always the constant that is on the right side of the equation. So you see here that the constant is going to be -2. So that means that our y-intercept is -2. So our line is going to be crossing the y-intercept at the point -2. So whenever we graph a line, we always start at the y-intercept. And we're going to put a point right there at 0, -2. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go 7 units up and 2 units across. So we're going to rise 7 and go over 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 over 2. And if you notice, this point right here is going to be at 2, 5. So right here, we're going to write in 2, 5. So you kind of get a hint on each of these right there. You kind of get a hint there. All right, so then what we would do, I have a ruler, so I'm going to use this little box, is we're just going to connect these 2 points, just like that, and your line should now look like that. Okay. It's going to be positive, so you see here that 7 over 2 is positive, and our line goes up from left to right, so it's positive. If this happened to be -7 over 2, it would look something like that. But, okay. So that's number 1. We're going to have 2 other types of lines that we'll be graphing in this assignment. They are vertical and horizontal lines. So vertical lines are represented by x equals 1. They're going to look like that. It's going to be a vertical line. I'm just going to write vertical here. Vert. And horizontal lines are always represented with y equals a number. Okay? It's very important that we understand how to graph these types of lines, as they will be utilized frequently in this unit when we learn about reflections. All right, so let's take a look at numbers 3 and 6. So for number 3, we said it was a horizontal line. So all we do is go to the y-axis. Okay, so it's y equals -5, and we go down to -5 right there. Okay, and we put a point right there. And then what we do is we draw a line that is perpendicular to the y-axis. So it's going to go just like this. Alright, so that means, as you can see, that the line goes through all the points that have the y value as -5. Graphing horizontal lines is a simple concept, because all you do is go to the point y equals -5 and draw a line through it. You know that you would be drawing a horizontal line, because if you drew a line through -5 going this way, you would be graphing the y-axis, and that would not be correct, because we are graphing the line y equals -5. Okay. And then we would do the same thing essentially for the line x equals 5, except this time it's going to be a vertical line. So we would go to the point where it's going to be x equals 5, and we're going to draw a line that is perpendicular. It means it's going to form right angles to the x-axis. So it's going to go right through that line. Okay, and it's perpendicular, so that means that every single point here is going to have, this line is going to go through where x is 5, okay, so like 5, 1, 5, 2, 5, 3, and so on. And we know that you would not be drawing the line this way because that would be the x-axis, okay? So the slope for this one is going to be no slope, okay? No slope, and there is no y-intercept. And for this one, we'll just write 5. You can really write whatever there for this number. And back here, all right, the slope on this one is going to be 0, because horizontal lines have 0 for the slope, and the y-intercept is at -5, and 3, -5. There will be a point, just like that. Okay, so there's that one, and there's that one, and that should be enough to get you through the rest of those.